Hi, and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Project Manager podcast for Sunday, the 18th of February 2024. This is your host, Nigel Creaser, and today we've got a rerun episode of Lindsay Scott, the Flash Mob Collector. So enjoy this step back. It's part one, I've split it this time. Enjoy this step back into 2019. Enjoy. So I have a number of sponsors, affiliate links in the way that it's set up that have kindly allowed me to share their services, really. The first one is Mike Clayton, and Mike runs online PM courses, and it is a great resource for getting those fundamentals of project management trained, reasonably priced, and Mike presents it in an accessible and clear manner. You can check out some of his videos on his YouTube channel and kind of give you a view of where they are. But the code for that, if you go to nigelcreaser.com/online PM courses, all one word, lowercase, that'll redirect you to it. There's very different levels that you can buy. You can buy individual courses, you can buy pathways as well, if you like. And I get a kickback off those. Mike kindly shares me that. So if you do jump on and use it, I hope you find it really useful. I think he has money back guarantees and things like that as well. So there's very limited risk on that. So jump on that, and that again, it's nigelcreaser.com/online PM courses, and enjoy. Hi, and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Project podcast episode for the 30th of April 2019. This is your host, Nigel Creaser, and coming up in this month's interview, we have Lindsay Scott, the PMO Mob Collector. But first, a word from our sponsors. This month, we are sponsored by Autera. Autera pride themselves in being straightforward. They produce elegant solutions to deliver deceptively simple answers to complex problems. They're not looking to shift anyone's paradigm or to disruptively square the circle from outside the box. They consistently deploy logical technology with human-centric focus. All their solutions are created by leading technologists, multi-award-winning industry leaders in solution design and delivery, technology deployments, and user experience. Improve your workflow with super simple and user-friendly tools delivered by Autera. And this month, if you contact them, they are offering a free project audit. So get along to www.autera.co.uk and have a look at what they offer. And many thanks to them for sponsoring this show. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, then please get in touch at sundaylunchpmpod@nigelcreaser.com. So in news, well, I'm on holiday at the moment, and you can probably hear some twittering. It's evening, and I'm sat with a nice bottle of Porth Nigel IPA from Cwr Lyn on the Flynn Peninsula in North Wales. It's been a lovely day. It's glorious weather, and the beer is very nice too. So there's another sponsor for the website. Writing this month has been slow. I've kind of hit the buffers a little bit on the Alexa book because one thing I do know is, and I mentioned it last month, I think, that WordPress changed some of the layouts and approach to implementing the websites that I was using as the basis for drawing out the Alexa skills for flash briefings. And accompanied with that, I'm not sure whether it's WordPress or whether it's Amazon that have changed something, that within my existing, any new skills I'm creating now, I'm getting because I use the free version of WordPress instead of paying for it, because the idea is to do it as cheaply and as quickly as possible, it comes up with advertisements in it and then says advertisement every time that's included inside one of these posts. So I haven't worked a way around that yet. So I kind of stalled on that writing specifically. Some of the other books I've got bubbling along at different times I've been poking around with. My most successful stuff's been this podcasting, actually. I've now interviewed 6, all ready. This is the 4th, and the other 2 are already in the bag, with 3 scheduled, 2 to be scheduled. So very much nearing the end of the full year's list of interviewees, which is fantastic. What I'm also doing with that is going to I've got some more information about the interviews as well, because I'll share later on in the year. So sales of the books have been going reasonably well, with little promotion. As you will hear, when I was a project manager, is still free. I've updated the cover on that because I kind of looked at it and still not 100%, but I have tweaked it to be more in line with the project management, the sketches style, trying to get some consistency of the brand across there. And that went out about a few weeks ago. So hopefully you'll see that and you'll like that. And that's really it. Other things, not a great deal. Oh, I suppose the other thing was I'd been looking at the follow-on to maybe looking at doing some conference type speaking or delivering the Project Management is Funny story. I've been using Canva, fantastic product if you want to do presentations, to create some outline scripts to be able to deliver out to people. So hopefully I'll get that bottomed out, and maybe you'll see me delivering that somewhere. Finally, in a matter of 3-4 days, I will hit a major milestone birthday of 50. And so, a lot of thinking about what I'm going to be doing next, and how things will change after 50. Maybe they don't, maybe they will. But anyway, I'll see you next time on the other side of 50. Bye-bye. So today I want to welcome to the podcast Lindsay Scott. Lindsay is a co-founder of Aras People, following a career at Esso and Hewlett-Packard. She graduated from Manchester University, and she's worked in professional services consulting divisions and project office and project management areas. During that time, she came face to face with some issues around recruiting good project management professionals, and had the opportunity to set up her own business because she knew there was definitely a place in the UK market for a recruitment agency that understood the project management subject matter. She says, we started at Aras People with the aim of ensuring all our recruitment consultants were project management practitioners, people who have worked within the project management environment. And since 2002, that's been the case. Lindsay's still passionate about the subject of PMO, and after 10 years managing the voluntary group APM PMO SIG, the Program and Project Management Office Specialist Interest Group, put my teeth back in after that, alongside the chairman and other committee members, she now organises the PMO Flash Mob, which we'll come on to later. Lindsay manages the marketing and sales function of Aras People today. In addition, she occasionally recruits for PMO roles because she can't resist it. Lindsay also carries out speaking engagements on project management career topics. She's a regular project management careers columnist in PMI's Network magazine, a column writer for APM's Project magazine, and co-editor of the Handbook of People in Project Management. Additionally, she blogs for the Aras newsletter and the How to Manage a Camel Aras blog, which I think is the first place I came across you. So, Lindsay, I'd like to welcome you to the podcast.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Wonderful.
Good. There's a lot of PMO.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. It is. It's like, I don't know if you saw that episode of Friends where you got Gary Oldman in it when they're talking about pronouncing their P's better. And it kind of like that. You end up if screen wipe in front of the TV sort of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely get it a lot. I mean, it's obviously it's not just the project management, but yeah, the program management and portfolio management and PMOs, and yeah, there's a lot of P's in there. But I like our P's, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah, if it's fundamentally, if there's an acronym to do with project management, you've got a P in there somewhere, haven't you?
Yes.
So let's start at the beginning. I mentioned in the intro that you were graduated at Manchester University. Where were you born? Where were you from?
I'm actually from Yorkshire, a mining town that most people have heard about, Barnsley. You know, if you're English listening to this, you'll know all about the miners' strikes and all of that. So, yeah, I grew up through that time. So, and don't live too far away from where now. I'm actually on the other side of the Pennines in Lancashire. But yeah, no, just a normal childhood in Yorkshire, really. Yeah, so it's all really, really lovely, and yeah, it's pretty normal schooling, and quite like school actually, which I know a lot of people, when you talk to them about early years, don't particularly like their school days, but I loved it. It was a place to meet your friends and hang out a bit. But yeah, and I was fortunate in that I had a really good bunch of friends that were interested in education and going on and doing more, really, because it's quite a working class town, and a lot of people don't tend to leave. But it wasn't a case of wanting to, have to get away. It's just I knew that I couldn't imagine myself living there the rest of my life. But I still go back. My parents are still there. I still love the place. It's and of course with social media these days, you've got all the local newspapers and all the rest of it. So I still keep up with everything that's going on back home with old friends and what have you. But yeah, it's nice place. Nice growing up in the late 70s, 80s. Yeah. Give me an idea about how old I am.
So I can empathise with that. I remember all that time as well. It was an interesting time there, and growing up in a small town in Shropshire. It probably had a similar sort of thing. So you're growing up there. You said you went on to education, obviously at University of Manchester. So when you growing up, what did you want to be? Was it a project? Was it a project? Someone involved with projects?
No, can you imagine the careers advice person at the school? You turn around and said I wanted to be a project manager. No, I mean, like I said, it was one of those times where actually it sounds awful now thinking about it, but they didn't really, give advice about anything remotely like managerial. It was all very much about working with your hands. So you were probably trying to be pushed down the route of being a hairdresser or something like that. But to be fair, I think when I first started to realise that, work and kind of jobs and stuff, I actually wanted to be a doctor, which is amazing now when I think about it. But I just love biology. You know how simple it all is at school. You think, well, I like this subject, so what can you do with that? But yeah, I didn't really. I suppose I carried on a little bit further with it, because when I got to thinking about university, I actually decided to do a psychology degree because I was interested in biology and the human mind and all of that kind of stuff, which is still the case today. And again, I picked the subject based on the fact that it was of interest. I had no idea what I really wanted to do after that, and I think a lot of people still to this day choose subjects because of the interest, because actually not quite 100% sure where you want to be. And I think when you're younger, there's no idea of, but actually you don't have to pick what it is that you want to do. There's such a thing as what we call a kaleidoscope career, where you'll start off down one path and end up completely different, somewhere different 20 years later. And I don't think you understand that as a kid.
No, I think it's important, isn't it? Is that I think with the studies and things like that, if there is something you have a passion for, then and an interest in, you are more likely to learn it and do the work to get to what you need to get to. And that's kind of half the reason for university, is not to teach you the subject per se, but teach you the methods and techniques of working hard in order to get to the next level. And and the subject, large, wouldn't say irrelevant, but you know what I mean, it kind of it's the skills you build up there, not necessarily the knowledge, that is the important
absolutely part. And my parents always said to me, well, actually after the thing that's really good about it is that at that age, at 18 years old, you're moving away from home for the first time and looking after yourself. So there's all of that kind of stuff that's in there. But it upsets me today when I see kids getting upset about not passing GCSEs or A levels or not getting the degree that they want, because at that time, obviously it means everything to them. But I think we both know that having worked for quite a while in industry, that it becomes less relevant. And so, yes, I had no guidance really. I was the first in my family to go to university, so I didn't have many people to speak to in terms of what was the expectation or anything like that. And like I said, I enjoyed school, so I thought, well, why would you want to not, take up the opportunity? And again, I was lucky. This is, early 90s, where people, you could still get your grants and stuff. So tuition fees were paid for you and things like that. So, yeah, I class myself as quite lucky that I were able to go on and do something like that. And enjoyed it immensely. Yeah, brilliant for years. Loved it. And Manchester's an interesting city. It always has been. I mean, it was back then. It was quite edgy. Still is a bit now. I mean, I live just north of Manchester, having come back after being away for a few years. And it is a city, but I enjoy a lot. It's got a great personality, and it's probably, I always see it as a second city. Apologies to anybody listening from Birmingham, but it's got a great vibe about the place, quite creative and stuff, which I really like. It
is it's one of those great times that I've been there, because I've worked around that area quite often and got into Manchester, and always found it quite whether it's the nightlife or whether it's in the day as well. It's just a nice city to wander around. You don't feel oppressed, and it still felt quite airy to me, I suppose, is the best way of describing it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things is about Manchester is that I still see it as a city that has not as much project management activity or businesses and things, but always surprises me, because when I did finish university, I eventually, I'm probably jumping ahead a bit, but I eventually started working for Hewlett Packard, which, when I first left university, I moved away for a year down to London and started working for Esso. Again, not having a clue about what I wanted to do at that time, and managed to get a job in their HR department for where they do all the distribution. So a lot of it's about lorry, the oil tanker drivers and stuff like that. Fascinating, just so fascinating in industry, to see how the petrol gets into your car, kind of thing. Yeah. But you were like that, 21 years old, I was wide-eyed, I was, it's that first thing of working in an office, learning not necessarily the job that you're employed to do, but more about the office environment, and how to speak to people and how to get on with people, and how to what constitutes doing a good job for somebody, and all of that kind of stuff that gets you prepared to leave education and then into work. So again, I was fortunate. It was a great company to work for in that respect, but just there for a short time, because I think again, when I left university, it was about not quite sure what I wanted, so I did a lot of temporary type work, which was, in hindsight, probably the best thing I could have done. Well, I kind of, found my feet, and, living in London for the first time, having a good time and all of that kind of stuff. But it was only until I started working at HPs, I moved back up north, back up to Manchester, and started working at Hewlett Packard, and it was the best company to work for. It's quite a shame now to see, how much it's changed and stuff. But, I was about 22, 23 years old. I've learned everything. I learned everything from working for that organisation. I suspect it's probably a bit like if you're a 22-year-old working in somewhere like Google or Amazon or Facebook, some kind of like, really innovative place where there's a lot of emphasis put on your learning and development, and you got treated very well, and these are like have lots of shindigs and lots of all the things that we talk about today in project management, like communities of practice and stuff. It was all going on at HP. They kind of felt very much ahead of the time. I felt, from having left it later and then being able to see how other organisations work. Got a real sense of, actually, gosh, I had so much opportunity and I took it while I was there, it kind of set me off on the path. And yeah, I think, without that, I dread to think where I would have ended up, because, that's when I got my first taste of project management, because I started working just as a kind of general administrator for the head of PPM practice, which is incredibly lucky. What they say about getting into project management, a lot of it's an accident.
Yes.
A lot of people,
I've spoken to 3 accidental project managers so far in this interview series, and you sound like you're the 4th.
Yeah. But she's incredibly difficult when you're trying to, because part of my job now is I advise people on how they can get into project management, and I find that very difficult. But anyway, you come back to that if you want, because it is a lot of, I'm the same, a lot of people that I'd met along the way had also been accidental. And yes, I was incredibly lucky again. This is the word lucky keeps coming up, but I do think that it is about, it's not all, I don't suppose just about luck, but it's about being able to spot the opportunity when it's right in front of your face, and being prepared to take a bit of a risk. And because I was still quite wet behind the ears, and but for some reason my then manager thought, oh, you'll be fine, come and join a project team and actually start getting involved in working alongside the project managers as a project coordinator and a project assistant. And there's that initial thing of like, oh gosh, I'm not really sure what all this is about, and but actually I'll just push myself, I'll just do it, what's the worst that can happen? Which I seem to say that quite a lot actually in my career. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And just have a go, I think. Yeah. And so I started working with them because it was a professional services business. So this is HP working with clients to put in certain solutions and what have you. So yeah, not only did I have experience of working with HP, but I felt like I was working for lots of other organisations as well. Because
so what sort of organisations were you involved in? What industries?
They really varied. I mean, there's the gas industry. There was young startups. Remember, this is the time of the .com stuff kicking off. So a lot of weird and wonderful entrepreneurs that, frankly, a nightmare to work with. And then retailers and airlines, and just over that period of time is that you could be working on a project that was only 6 months, another time it'd be something that was lasting a year. I think one of the most interesting ones to work on at the time was it makes you feel so old when you're thinking back to what you've done, but in that time when internet cafes started springing up, because nobody had a fast connection at home, so all these internet cafes. I mean, I know you've still got them now, but they literally became a massive thing. And Salios, the EasyJet guy, he started creating easy internet cafes.
I remember that.
So that was an HP project, and which took us, it was around the UK and some of the major cities in Europe. And I was just I'm going to have to scrap that. I was the project office, essentially, for that project.
Right.
There's a couple of us working in the project office. And again, HP is always about, it gives you opportunity to travel.
Yeah.
So even though there's not a massive need for you to be on these sites where they're doing work, they are very good at, well, come along and see what's happening on site, because they're always kind of thinking, well, you know, you can be supporting the project today, but actually we're going to be needing more project managers down the line. So is this the path for you or not? You know, so there's a lot of that kind of on the job training going on, mentoring and things. I had some brilliant project managers and program managers that I worked with over that time, that I've learned so much from. So, you know, I would say that, you know, 90% of the knowledge that I'd had around projects had come from these people that had been around the block a few times. And it's, you know, it's invaluable, more so than any training course could ever give you. But again, you know, you're just making sure that you've got your mouth shut and your ears open, and soaking it up. And you know, from there, working on those kind of projects, what we found at Hewlett Packard is that, and I suppose in many businesses today, that the more projects that you have, there's more of a need to put in a more formal PMO type structure.
Yeah.
You know, this portfolio of view of everything that's going on, in order to be able to look for, you know, places and hot spots where you could potentially get, you know, improvements across the board. And so that's how I got dragged into that. I said dragged. It was a case of, does anybody want to do this? So like, yeah, put your hand up. What you got to do it again. You know, it's that kind of thing. And that's where I got into the whole the what I class to be the most interesting part about project management. So sorry to any project managers, but running the projects themselves didn't interest me as much as looking at, from an organizational level, about how can we improve projects across the board. Because I enjoyed that kind of, well, it's a different kind of view. You're going to get involved in a lot more stuff. So for example, one of the first parts of that project is to look at the methodology that the projects were running with. At that time, they were going through a new iteration of a method worldwide in HP. So it's about being able to bring that methodology to the UK and to get people trained up in it and that kind of stuff. So that gave me my first taste of, as well, I still see the other side of project management, which is is the supporting the projects and the project managers. And one of those things is about looking at best practices and how you can help them to do their job better. And I don't know, maybe it just naturally felt like the right kind of place for me to be, because I got to work with lots of different people. Because it comes back to the psychology thing, maybe, where, you know, I do really enjoy understanding people and why they're doing the things that they're doing and how they could do things differently and all of that kind of stuff. So that's where the PMO stuff started, and I ended up eventually managing and building up that PMO for that part of the business. And and it's interesting when you're doing that kind of job, because bearing in mind I had no idea what a PMO was, and
it's an interesting. Sorry to butt in. It's that, and I think you've mentioned it a couple of times, and I find it an interesting conversation around how you would define a PMO, and with your experience, how different the PMOs are in different organisations, and what the phrase PMO means to different businesses.
Yeah, I mean, wow, this is the thing, isn't it? It's so it can be project, program, or portfolio management office. So it's the three P's, and because I didn't understand that actually, other organisations are going to have this, I have no idea. That's where the PMO SIG stuff, you know, in the intro you said about getting involved in this voluntary group. Well, that is the start of actually being able to understand and meet other people that were doing the same job as me, and we had no idea when we first met. And this is like, you know, early 2000s. When we first met, we had no idea that actually this is a thing. This is a job. Wow, this is a career. Wow, this is, you know, it was really, it was like, and the people that I met back then, I'm still really, really good friends with today. And they all had similar experiences, that they were working in projects and then somebody asked them to kind of like say, you know, look at the other side of it, which is, wow, we have all these projects, but we've got so many issues going on across these projects. Can we find out what these problems are? And that's where it started with me. That we were heavily audited as well. So, how do you put on do an auditable process across so many different types of projects, so many different types of clients as well, different solutions that they were doing. And it all becomes a bit like project management, in that there's a problem there to be solved, but it's just a different thing that you're trying to solve.
There's a different set of tools to solve it with as well.
Yes, yeah. And I also feel as well that when we started in PMO back then, the focus very much was on project management. So forget about program management and portfolio management for now. Even as recent as year 2000, the focus was very much around, my world in IT and professional services was very much around projects and focusing on project delivery. So it wasn't until later on that program management became more of a thing, and then portfolio management later on. So you felt like you were kind of making it up as you're going along, but that sounds like you haven't got a clue. But it's more than that. It's just that there is like today you can pick up a P3O manual, which is the thing that came along in 2008 for PMOs specifically. But back then you just had the tools of project management. Yeah. So you had to work a lot closely with your project managers to figure it out together. And I kind of think that the industry misses that a little bit now, because I think a lot of times, quite a lot of project managers don't think much of their PMOs. They feel like stuff's been done to them. Whereas in my experience, it was very much a collaborative thing that we were doing. Obviously, we want our projects, as a project manager, obviously we want our projects to deliver better. And if a PMO can help us do that, great, let's do that.
I think it depends how it's implemented, doesn't it? And you can implement it as a team that are there checking that the project manager's doing their job right, or you can do it as they're there supporting the project manager hand in hand, making a successful delivery. And sometimes it's the PR over those two things of what's available, isn't it? Rather than and a PM understanding that actually the activities the PMO are doing are helping you succeed more.
Yeah, well, I think it's more fundamental than that, and it's the culture of the organisation to start with. HP was always classing itself as invention, innovation, and all this kind of stuff, and applying that to their own internal processes didn't seem like a weird thing to do. Collaboration was the thing anyway. So, but yes, we obviously now with the job that we've been doing for the last umpteen years, that you get to listen to a lot of different people's stories around their PMOs and what they're doing, and some of them you just think, oh no, it is that thing of we're there to control and to basically wrap the project manager over the knuckles, and you just think, that's just old thinking, and but again, I think it comes down to the culture of the organisation. There's a bigger things there. I'm sure you could spend an hour talking about that alone, but yeah. So it's I just felt like I had the best start really with the whole PMO thing, just because working for HP was so brilliant. But I wanted to do other things, and unfortunately, and I think many people who have been in the boat of being in a large organisation that starts to go through mergers and acquisitions, of which HP were doing a lot of it at that time. Things started to go downhill, and one of those things was about you were talking about taking pay cuts, and if you want to stay, you're going to be you're going to be doing this job with no pay rise for the next umpteen years. I mean, this is well before 2008. Didn't know that was going to be around the corner, but and it just felt like the party had stopped. To me, it just felt like I'm going to be treading water here for a while, and I just thought at that time, it was ready to move on. But yeah, it's one of those things, I suppose. Now when I look back at it, because I talk to obviously people, for the recruitment business and stuff, and advising them around their careers, that, how do you know when's the right time to go? There's always a question that people, ask themselves. And for some people, it takes them, quite a long time to do it. But as soon as the voluntary redundancies started and all that kind of stuff, like, right, I'm going. And didn't take a voluntary redundancy. They wouldn't give me one, so I just left. But then, I was still quite young. But what I wanted to do, and this is probably just as this is a kind of business that HP was, that it gave me enough confidence to think, well, actually, I'd quite like to start my own business. So a few people leaving at HP at that time also, a bit older than me, wanted to also do that. So that's what we did. And that's when Ours People started in 2002, so 17 years ago, which is crazy. So you can see that I've not actually worked in projects for businesses for a long time, and nor really, for a long time while I was in the business. But I think because I was working professional services and because I was working with so many different customers over that time, it felt like I'd worked for lots of other businesses, so so something must have happened, because I've never been able to shake this thing about PMOs specifically. And yes, obviously still doing stuff with
it's obvious.
Another great sponsor of the show comes in the form of AirManual. AirManual is it's a tool for documenting process, which and best practices. It's a company formed by one of my interviewees, Alexis Kingsbury. Essentially, and I kind of summarised why my view of where we see documentation, a lot of my experience has been people will document something, a process, they'll put it in a Visio diagram that gets loaded onto a SharePoint site or something similar, and then a bunch of that. So then once that diagram's been shared with senior management, they're happy they have a process in the business. But then the detailed procedures underneath it might be in Word documents, just poorly kept and not linked easily and not updated. And what AirManual does, it allows you to put in it's a tool for doing this kind of thing. You whack it in, the service in there, get in there, put in your process, your flow, and you build it down to as low a level of detail, even to the point of checklists where people can check off they've done it. So it creates that guided checklists, easy to create, easy to maintain, and all in one place. And no one's kind of rooting around to find the SharePoint, and then when you change to new SharePoint services and all that stuff, it's all there. So if you pop along to nigelcreaser.com/airmanual, there's a bit more detail there and a link there to click on to go and get. I think they offer a trial and things like that. So it's something that I think can easily reduce the amount of errors, rework, etc. within our organisation. So take a look. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first part of that interview again, and come back next week for part 2. Look after yourself. See you soon. Bye. So this is my final wrap up. Every week you're going to hear this, you're going to get bored of it, but you can always click next podcast if so. If you have enjoyed it, if you listened to this podcast to the end of this show and you think that was great, I'd love to be able to help Nige out. There are loads of ways you can do it. The first and obvious way is to share the podcast, send it out to people. If you know colleagues and friends who'd benefit from it, you think they'd enjoy it, just send them the link. Grab one of the links, or send them to www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts. That's www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts, and that will push them over to a Linktree link, and it's got all of the different ways they can consume the podcast.
If you are feeling generous and have a big bag of cash, you could grab a copy of one of my books. Obviously, they're available in all the usual places, print and digital. Again, jump on the website, www.nigelcreaser.com/shop, and that will give you a list of all the different ways that you can contribute and grab copies of the book. Also got links to all my guests' books on there as well, where I get a little bit of a kickback from them. If you are of a sporting mind, I have a number through doing some of my judo and running antics. I've managed to secure a few affiliate links and affiliates there as well. So in there, somewhere in the sponsors page, there's links to those as well. So clicking onto those and grabbing if you're looking to get super fit, then that would be fabulous as well, and I get a little kickback from those. I have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/sundaylunchpm. So again, you can ping something in there, buy me a coffee or whatever. And finally, obviously the most important is coming back, listen again, because the more of you that come back, the more visibility I get, because there's more times that it's downloaded and all the SEO works and things like that. So yeah, that's it. So if you can help me out, I would be much appreciated. If you can't, don't worry about it. Thank you very much. Cheers now. Bye. My latest, the latest affiliate that I've got on the show now is Riverside. I use Riverside to do my interviews, Riverside FM. It kind of offers you a whole, if you like, micro studio management producer tooling and goes beyond that. Has a really good free layer. And I've been using it for a while now. I find it really good. When I've had issues, even though I'm not on one of the higher paid levels, the support has been quick, responsive and of high quality, and people keen to help me. The organisation seems really good. The product seems really intuitive. And quality is really good as well. And it's a clever way of doing it is when you're recording through your browsers, so you've not got loads of desktop resources being used compared to some other products that I've used. And what they also do is they stream a lower quality version of it up onto as you're doing the interview, so you're not burning bandwidth while you're doing the interview and potentially impacting on the quality of the conversation. And then at the end, it uploads it, the higher quality from your browser. It's just a really good way of doing it. So if you are thinking of doing a podcast, know someone who's doing a podcast, I would recommend using this tool. I found it really good. Best of the tools that I've tried using to date. And you can get that at nigelcreaser.com/riverside, and that will redirect you to my kickback page on their site, and there I will get a little kickback from them. So take a look. Thanks. Well, it's goodbye from me, Nigel Creaser, and it's goodbye from him, the Sunday Lunch PM. Goodbye.